Afternoon, everyone. Indeed, a pleasure to be moderating such an esteemed panel with quite a bit of diversity, with people from payment banks, from banks. We've got vendors and we've got consulting people on this esteemed panel. Interesting times when we're living in uh, from a cybersecurity perspective, with number of breaches happening every single day. A lot of people we talk to, the CEOs, CXOs, their primary agenda is they don't want to get up in the morning and see their names in the newspaper because of a cyber breach. That is the extent it has happened. And let me start with probably one of the most targeted sectors, Mr. Venkateshwaran. I'll probably want to bring you in. Uh, Given that a lot of people are working from home, right? Remote access is the new normal. We don't know when we'll all be able to go back to offices. Uh, what do you think is the right security solution to deal with the new normal that we are looking at?
Good afternoon, everybody. Banks have been using remote connectivities for specific purposes earlier also. But with the onset of pandemic, it has given everybody an opportunity to relook and work around secure solutions for the remote access. One of the important prerequisites which are required for enabling this the work from home culture is that the devices which are connecting should be authenticated, and the persons who are connecting should be authorized, and whatever they are accessing should also be properly, they should be authorized to use those resources. So generally, when we bring in this work from home security solutions or the infrastructure towards that, what it will be the Active Directory, the authentication to the Active Directory. Then you will be having some more security to be added to the endpoints like the laptops or the desktops or this thing. So we'll be having something called the antivirus solutions or the EDRs and the mobile device management solutions. Okay. Then there will be some two-factor authentication. There will be some VPN connectivity and a two-factor authentication to bring in more security towards that for accessing the resources. Then especially in the banking sector, we will also be looking at the privileged identity management. So that the people are the only who are authorized or able to log in. And this privileged identity management solutions will have the capability to record the sessions, what all they are doing, so that in case of need, these logs or the recordings can be looked into. Okay. So there is a need to reorient the security posture and the security solutions across so that they are able to deliver a secure connectivity and the work from home and the business continuity is established. Thank you.
I think great opening comments. Thank you very much. Indeed, a privilege listening to you once again, Mr. Venkateshwaran. Let me just cross borders and move to Mehboob Bhai. Every 6 months there is a new buzzword that comes in the area of cybersecurity, right? And now we are talking about zero trust architecture. What have you seen banks in your area doing, in your region doing from a zero trust architecture? Is that enough? And will zero trust actually mean zero trust?
Thank you, Jaspreet. Thanks for having me. Thanks to Jeevan. Thanks to the organizers to arrange this program. Zero trust is not only a buzzword nowadays. Zero trust is a fundamental things of business now. In our country, after having the unprecedented time like COVID, we are trying to adopt the zero trust across all the ecosystem, especially zero trust security approach will not be easy to build on a day. It's a continuous process. We need to ensure zero trust for people access. We need to ensure zero trust at network level. We need to ensure zero trust for data. We need to ensure zero trust for workload. So in each and every segment of technology, we have to adopt that zero trust approach. There are multiple solutions exist. We are actually castle moat approach is become our DNA. So we have to reorchestrate the DNA because castle moat approach will not effective anymore. Most important thing is the structure of our applications. Does our application allow the zero trust deployment? So we need to think from application side as well, because the application developers who had built the in-house applications, they need to consider the security strategist approach of zero trust as well, because application creates the data, and the data encryption data at rest level is needed to have a very good zero trust approach. This will be a tough journey, and as a business enabler, security team should have the business guidance, and business need to understand about the zero trust approach as well, because it's not only technology thought process, it should be a business leader's thought process as well, to secure their data and to secure their assets.
I think very well said. It is not only the security team, but the business team also should take onus in doing this. Uh, let me move to you, Ritesh. Good afternoon. When looking at the size and scale of the organization where you come from, what do you think are some of the challenges that you will face while implementing a zero trust architecture?
A good question. In terms of our size as a payments bank today, Geo Payments Bank does not have any branch presence, but we have ensured that we are able to seamlessly service and provide all services during the pandemic. Now, how was that possible? And probably zero trust is a new nomenclature, which is very nice to have, but we have ensured that be it our front-end users, back-end users, or customers, we have provided enough security architecture and level of authentication that while providing convenience and less of friction, has been able to getting enough controls to have preventive and detective checks. So, if you were to ask me, it is the cornerstone of access, and we should be going forward with this. So, primarily, we have ensured that while providing security, we also take care of the privacy, sustainability, and the user experience, while ensuring that we provide a solution which is scalable. So, I think we fortunately had some systems in place which were scaled up just in time to be able to offer the same platform while we migrated to work from home. So I think rather than getting into specific details, I can say with a level of confidence that we did manage to transition it gracefully, and it was a big revelation because all along regulatorily we have been obliged to have a preparation for pandemic, and really believe me, in most of the BCP documentations, the cornerstone pandemic was only mentioned in some corner, whereas now a certain level of preparation ensured that we were able to gracefully migrate onto remote operations and minimal trust for our team. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitesh. I think very, very important point. And in fact, I do read a lot. I read a World Economic Forum report 2019 where it said that a chance that a pandemic will affect more than 60 countries is just 7%. Right, and 2020 we had a pandemic which affected almost all 180 countries. And being a resilience professional myself, a lot of times companies said, how do we prepare for a 30-day outage and a city outage of 30 days, right? And we would probably say that that's a black swan event which may or may not happen ever. And here we are probably 1 year into a pandemic and still thinking about ways of working on what it's going to be normal. Thank you so much, Nitesh. Excellent thoughts. Last but not the least, Martin, very good afternoon. Coming to you, Martin, you're from a vendor side. So what kind of recommendations would you give large BFSI organizations on how to build a trusted network, which also looks at the agility and the rapidness of doing business today?
I think that's well. First of all, thank you for having me on the panel. It's a privilege, and I'm also very grateful that you haven't mentioned cricket so far. That's a subject I'd like to steer away from. And then finally, just to go back to your question, I think it's really important that people do understand, first of all, the principles around zero trust in its purest form. So first of all, my recommendation is NIST came out with a special publication in August last year. So go read that because it's got some really good architectural principles and designs and guide rails around that. Because I think the vendor community, as people have said, are likely to come out and talk about zero trust and really use it as a marketing tool and not really understand the principles that sit behind it. So the very essence of zero trust is default deny and least privilege, and that's a really important concept to think, and being able to make sure that those principles apply to the most granular levels of compute that you've got within your organization. What we're seeing in the UK is banking and financial institutions, and especially the more established ones, so Barclays, Lloyds, HSBC, are unable to be agile as new fintech challenges are, because they are encumbered by their legacy architecture and a legacy way of security as well, which is we'll have a perimeter firewall and we'll try and protect everything using that perimeter firewall, despite the fact that more and more services are now being delivered in the cloud. So in order to be agile and be competitive as a business, one of the things you really need to think about now is how do I use and access tools and capabilities that may sit in AWS, Azure, GCP, in order to bring a better user experience to my customers, but in a really safe manner. And in order to do that, you do need to think about zero trust, because zero trust and the principles that sit behind it mean that you'll be able to do that in a secure way, and in a secure, and as Mitesh was saying, which is really important, a scalable way as well.
Superb. I think some excellent points by you, Martin, on the scalability, on how do we bring it to it. Coming back to you, Venkateshwaran, and then Mehboob, probably you could also answer the same question. One of the largest banks, nationalized banks, work from home. What steps did you take to make sure that security is not compromised? Or what do you think, worked in the last 1 year for various organizations when we actually adapted to work from home? Because we were not prepared, like Mitesh said, like Martin referred to that. Sir, I think you are on mute. Sorry.
Are you able to hear me? See, banks have been using work from home on a limited basis, especially when we need to troubleshoot and the engineers are not available at site. Okay. So, but those were specific situations. Okay. But the pandemic, they brought in the scenarios where the employees were not able to reach their officers, or the engineers or the vendor personnel, they were also not able to reach. So this, it created a difficult situation because of the restrictions imposed due to the pandemic and the precautions that need to be taken. Okay. Yeah. One is the enabling work from home. The other one is personnel who are required to be there. Okay. Further, making provisions for enabling their continued sustenance in the site. These two approaches were adopted. So we brought in whatever VPN solutions we were already having, we upgraded it with a two-factor authentication mechanism. Okay, and we also reviewed the architecture, the IT architecture and the security architecture, so that if there are any gaps to address this, to enable this the work from home scenario, that was brought in. Okay, after reviewing the architecture. Then we looked into the privileged identity management solutions which were already being used. Okay, so we had to scale up the licenses wherever required. Wherever we had to scale up the licenses, we got the necessary approvals in time, and we could do that. Okay. See, this we did not expect that the work from home or these scenarios will continue for long. Okay, it's a continuous process which we have to see. But I feel that organizations, if they have to sustain this work from home, or the bring your own device culture, then they have to move into more adaptable situations like the VDI. Okay. We are also evaluating it, and probably with the passage of time, banks will be adapting it. Thank you.
Great thoughts. And you made some references to investments being made during the pandemic. I'll come back to you on the entire. I have a few questions on investments also. Thank you. But I would request Mahbubul Bhai to give his thoughts on this.
Actually, the situation and the scenario and the approaches was same for each and every bank. We need to enable the remote access for our employee. The concentration area for us? What was the concentration for? If I want to elaborate, the device, the most important things. We have enabled work from home for all the users, but for the critical users who have access in our systems, information systems, with superior role privilege, we have given them, we have made the mandatory things, the agent-based VPN. And we have ensured the 6 components like the DNS security for the users who are doing VPN to our ecosystems, then the multi-factor authentications, then the single sign-on integration with our Active Directory, as there are some M365 users, so there are some cloud integration as well. Then we have ensured the proper rules is placed in the network access control. And 5th, we continuously review the logs of activities. And we have reviewed all the privilege which was previously enjoyed by the users. We have limited it because as it's a new situations, the privilege should not be as wide as the previous. So this is how we actually handle the situations. But there are lots of other arenas where we need to give proper concentrations to ensure the zero trust approach. Zero trust, to me, zero trust approach give me an essence of negativity. So that's why I want to term it as a trust, but verify all the time. So we are giving our trust to the people, but we are verifying at each and every level.
Thank you, Mehboob bhai, for bringing in the element of trust at every level. Let me just add some more complexities, and then I come to Mitesh. Right, work from home, new architecture, zero trust architecture we're talking about. Let's add the complexity on bring your own device to it. Right, with so many people bringing their own kind of Android versions, iOS versions on this. How does this impact the entire zero trust architecture, Mitesh? Sir, I think you are on mute.
Yes. Hi. So I will take that question in a minute, but I would say that finally authentication is the cornerstone of secure digital transformation. Now, this is for the platform business, and beyond that, I feel it is the pillar for the fourth industrial revolution. What happens is basically we need to be able to ensure that our IoT devices are able to authenticate on a machine to machine level, and if required using AI, so that what we are trying to do is provide them a secure channel. Okay, and in that, if required, we can even use blockchain, which will ensure there are trustworthy authentication. So, overall, what I'm trying to say is, in zero trust, we need to bring in an element of innovation uh, to be able to see that while we authenticate the user at the beginning, all along we keep supervising their activities, probably using AI to ensure that they are doing what they are expected to do, and what has been their usage or behavior patterns. Okay, so that way I think it brings in a lot of responsibility onto the organization to ensure that one is set up a secure authentication framework, and then two, put in adequate controls to ensure that this is normal authorized behavior on a continuous basis. Probably putting checks around time of day, putting checks around the previous history, the devices being used, etc. So there will be a whole lot of checks that can be put in. But yes, we need to look at AI quite aggressively to be able to define a usage pattern and then ensure there are not many deviations to that pattern.
Excellent. I think superb inputs. Martin, uh, after we've spoken about zero trust architecture, let's go to a couple of more buzzwords like AI, ML. Right? Everybody's talking about these nowadays, right? How does the advent of some of these technologies, how will they help us prevent cyber attacks, or are we looking at a frequency of the attacks happening which we probably wouldn't be able to embrace going forward?
It was really interesting you asked that question. In a previous life as a CISO, I was approached by a large company who their cybersecurity solution is based upon AI technologies, and I was really wowed and impressed by what they had to offer. But then I had a chat with one of the enterprise cybersecurity guys, and he said to me, the issue with adopting an AI approach towards cybersecurity is, will there be a device, an AI device, which is able to spoof the AI device which is telling you what you should and you shouldn't protect within your environment? And we've kind of seen that, and I don't know if anybody has seen some of the press releases over the last few days where there's been a really good deep fake of Tom Cruise appear. And I think this is the kind of challenge that we're facing within enterprises and organizations, which is the sophistication of attacks and bad actors is increasing all of the time, and the tooling that's available to people is increasing all of the time. So I think if you really want to adopt a secure security architecture, you have to do one based upon the principles of zero trust, which I said earlier, which is default deny, least privilege. I think if you're starting to layer AI and machine learning on the top of it, you start to add an element of additional security risks within that, because you're only relying as good as the AI algorithm in terms of what you should protect and what you shouldn't protect.
Yeah, I think I've heard a lot of places where AI ML is as good as the algorithm that you code it in, right? Which is like any other technology, right? Any other technology's capability to detect attack is how well do I configure it. It's not that I just put a tool and I can, and everything is hunky dory. Thank you so much.
And I think the only other point I would say is we're around the corner from the advent of quantum computing, which is going to change cybersecurity significantly in the coming years. And so our whole approach towards cybersecurity needs to really think about how things like quantum are going to impact that. Because once those kind of tools get into bad actors' hands, that's going to be a very different ball game in terms of attack profiles.
Right, and believe me, bad actors would probably get access faster to some of these technologies and the use cases than us.
Yeah,
and which is scary, right?
Yep. Absolutely.
Perfect. We just around the corner, so now I'll probably like to go in the reverse direction. I'll start with you, Martin. Sorry for putting you on the spot. We've spoken about cybersecurity, right? What does it do to user experience?
It can do a number of things. For most people in organisations, it adds a level of complexity to their normal working day. You're having to use tools to establish a VPN connection. You've got scanning going on in the background. You may have various authentication mechanisms that you're having to go through. So there's a productivity issue that you need to think about how you balance that with the user experience for sure. I think newer technologies, there can also be a performance issue as well, and especially as a number of organisations have seen where they're moving very quickly and very rapidly to having a dispersed remote workforce, and those people who used to be office based are now working remotely, and suddenly you've got a whole bunch of people connecting into VPN concentrators that weren't before. So you've got kind of performance issues on your VPN. You've got performance issues on your internet connectivity. You need to solve all of those things in real time. So there can be some user experiences around that. So I think it's really important to make technology as simple and as straightforward, but as secure as possible for the user experience. No one is ever going to say you're going to be 100% secure, but you need to be secure in the context of your business. And for things like financial services and healthcare, where security is paramount, you need to take those extra steps And sometimes you need to accept that there will be an impact on usability and efficiency just to make things more secure.
Thank you, Martin. Yeah, superb. I think super well articulated. There has to be a great balance. Coming to you, Mitesh. With advent of so much technologies, but on the other hand, with so much data that we are creating every single day, how will this affect the entire data privacy piece? And given that we are just around the corner from a maybe a privacy bill perspective, how will both of these link together? Nitesh, sorry, I think you're on mute. Sorry.
I took the mute off, yeah. So you put in a very good question, and to this challenge, I would say that one is the data privacy that we are talking about, and two, a lot of migration or adoption of the cloud. So these things are really going to drive the market towards ensuring that there are very clear and preferably implementable regulatory guidelines around it. And within here in India, we know that RBI, the regulator, is in the process of drafting those guidelines, and they should be out soon in terms of the cloud adoption. In terms of the data privacy, it's around the corner. So I think the challenge is about how do we secure the data, whether it is at rest within the organization or outside, and importantly, how do we maintain control over the secrets or the keys and its rotation. So it is a challenge that we are now embracing as a strategic project to ensure that once the data at rest is secure, then probably the impact of any compromise, it comes down drastically, because even if there is some data exfiltration, at the end of the day they have just encrypted garbage data which nobody will be able to figure out. So at the same time, it also eliminates the possibility of insider attack. So what we are trying to do is ensure that our data lakes and the transactional systems all I have data which is secure. At the end of the day, finally you might try to do whatever in terms of preventing and authorizing a user, be it customer or staff. Finally, it's the data which matters, which after which everybody is. Data is the new oil, as they say, or as we say in Reliance. So we ensure that data at rest is secure, and then I think the rest of the stuff is taken care of. Because I think today most of the banks are ISO or a PCI or such a level of compliance is already there. Okay, so that is not a challenge, but it's finally ensuring there are sufficient and more controls on the data which is at rest. Thank you.
I think great closing comments, Mitesh. I think everybody is looking forward to that proposed data protection bill. In fact, I think government is also, like you said, we might have a cloud adoption strategy, uh, policy bill, etc. Come out pretty soon. Mehbul bhai, now coming to you, right? I know right now there is no laws around data privacy that govern in your nation, but what are your thoughts from how will all of this come together to propel data privacy to the new normal?
Uh, we are working on the data privacy act. Actually, government is working on. There, it's not easy for us to follow the GDPR or the Indian Data Privacy Act. So, government and the concerned stakeholders are working on data privacy, considering the fourth industry regulation as well as the financial and payment ecosystem needs. Um, the awareness about data privacy is not adequate among the customers, among the consumers, among the data users. So before publishing any act or bill, we should create a public awareness about data privacy, because data privacy is not an issue about technology. It's a core issue which need to be understood by the mass level people. Otherwise, the journey of information security professionals will not be easy to ensure the data privacy. So we should focus on the awareness campaign through electronic media and through the other opportunities we have where we can engage with the mass people. Thank you, Justin.
Great. I think thank you for that, Mr. Venkateshwaran. Last question. You mentioned this in your first answer, sir. You spoke about getting more budget, etc. So, what has happened in the last 1 year? Do you have really, banks, organizations taken more cognizance on spend on cybersecurity? Given that we are also, looking at some kind of downtrend in the entire economic piece. What are your thoughts on that, Mr. Venkatesh?
Of course, organizations have focus on the security budgets. Okay, and most of this are compliance oriented. Okay, so whatever we are doing, see, one is the pandemic has created a situation, and see, when you look at the budget, there are two aspects. One is the capital part, and the other one is the operational recurring. Okay, with the cloud, with the adoption of cloud by various organizations, these have become the operational cost model. Okay, the security implementations are straightly moving towards the operational cost model. So these costs are going to increase, and the organizations have to take cognizance of it. It is how properly they evaluate and bring in the right solutions that will matter much. So yes, the budgets are increasing and the requirements are increasing. Okay, and with the advent of the proposed data protection bill, there were some more things which needs to be brought in, like the since the banks and the financial institutions, they will become data fiduciaries. Okay, so they have to bring in a data protection officer. They have to have various the processes to be put in place to address the issues which will be raised by the customers on the privacy and other aspects. Okay. So to bring in privacy, earlier itself banks have been working towards this. Okay. See, we will be having some encryptions on the personal data. We will be having some redactions. There will be masking. All these things are there. But it is the ecosystem where the problem comes. It's not just we have to protect the data. When there are various service providers, there are various other agencies where this data is getting exchanged and in completion of the transaction. So the entire ecosystem has to build the required solutions to protect the privacy of data. Thank you.
Thank you so much, dear panelists. I think I had a great time moderating such a esteemed panel. I really learned a lot, from remote access solutions to data privacy to bring your own devices to how companies are spending on compliance, zero trust architecture. I think it was really a very enriching session. Thank you so much to all the panelists.
Thank you.
Back to you, Steven.